Hey, my name is David Buck, and in this video we're going to look at all of the different color tools available in Lightroom Classic. Everything you need to have complete control over the color in your photos. So Lightroom Classic is filled with incredible tools, and almost all of them either work with the color or the brightness of a photo or different sections of a photo. So we're going to cover all the tools that affect color in a photo and what I like to use them for. Now my personal preference in editing is to bring out colorful, vibrant, true to nature photos as opposed to dark and moody or faded colors. Just know that you can use the tools in all sorts of different ways and get different looks to your photos, but of course I'm going to show you my preference because hey, it's my video. So the tools we have available to us are white balance, vibrance, saturation, tone curve color channels, hue, saturation, luminance color channels, also known as HSL, color grading, camera calibration, and camera profiles. Holy smokes, that's a lot. There's so many different options. How do I know what to use? So I'm going to show you how they work and what I use each one of them for. So let's jump into them in order. So white balance is the setting that the program uses in order to determine what is supposed to be white in your photo. So this one is used to make your overall image the right color. Sweet, it sounds simple. So this tool is mainly used for raw photos. These are files that have been captured in camera in RAW or in DNG or these other camera file types as opposed to JPEG images. And they have all the information that the camera captured still in the file. So when a JPEG is created in camera, the camera has to determine what the white balance is supposed to be in the image and lock it into the JPEG. You can't change the white balance from there with a JPEG. So that's why your camera has different settings such as shade, incandescent, sunny, etc. So these little icons here. Now when you capture a picture in RAW, you're giving your editing program the option to change what is seen as white within the program. So the two slider options here are tint and tone. Slide one towards yellow or blue for tone, and between green and magenta for tint. So we have these handy options here on the right for you to pick what white balance you would want, or we can let the program choose with the auto button, just like the camera would have to do by analyzing the colors in the picture. Or you can use this little eyedropper tool to pick color in the image that you want to be white, or gray, or black. So basically, it doesn't have to be white, but any neutral tone within the image you can click on and get the right color. Or you can manually insert numbers into the tints and tones to get a specific value. If you're capturing images in RAW format, use this tool well, basically always. Then when you synchronize your photos one to the next, all of the images taken in the same type of lighting will be exactly the same color. Consistency is wonderful. I like consistency. A little note here on synchronization. If you've set one image to as shot and you synchronize it to the next hoping that it's going to be the same color, it won't be. Because what it's synchronizing is the setting as shot rather than the number values that you've selected. So if you want to override this as shot, you have to change one of the values. As soon as you change the number, it will change to custom instead of as shot. So now when you synchronize it, it will match the numbers from the first photo as long as you have white balance selected in your synchronization box. Remember, that's Command-Shift or Control-Shift-S for synchronizing your settings. Remember that when you're looking at photos, there's all different colors of lights in the tint and tone range because something that's supposed to be white doesn't mean that the light hitting it isn't blue or yellow or magenta. And there's a flavor to white balance. Some people like warmer images, some cooler. You have a whole bunch of freedom here, which is why photography is called art. I personally like images that are warmer rather than ones that are cooler, so yellower rather than bluer. You can certainly change the white balance settings when you're editing a JPEG image, but this tool isn't made for that, and so it will color the image improperly pretty quickly. There are better color tools to use later if you're just trying to fix the color in a JPEG image. Okay, moving on. Vibrance versus saturation. What on earth is the difference between vibrance and saturation? These two can be a bit confusing, but one boosts the intensity of the color in the areas that are already colorful, and one boosts the intensity where there is little to no color. So vibrance boosts the amount of color in an area where there's little to no color. So sometimes it seems like increasing this one is more pleasing, but it depends on how much color is already in the image and how many competing colors there are working against each other in your image. Saturation, on the other hand, increases the color values of each of the colors already in your picture, and so becomes very apparent first in the areas where you already have a lot of color. Because it's bringing up the high value colors first, they reach the max in the image first. So increasing the saturation value of the whole image is more limited than vibrance is. So you can see here when I increase vibrance, it's trying to add color into these previously almost colorless areas. And these colorful areas aren't getting all that much more color. Whereas if I increase the saturation, these areas here go super colorful right away, and these areas here with little to no color don't change nearly as much. You can see that when I decrease the vibrance all the way to 0, these heavily colored areas don't actually get to black and white. They still retain some color. Whereas if I pull the saturation all the way down, the image becomes a true black and white. So if I want to give the image more of a toned look in conjunction with some of the other color tools that we have, I can keep the really colorful parts of the image more intense and drop down the color of the less colorful areas and let the tones we add later flavor the rest of the image. Another way to look at the effect is if I go full saturation and 0 vibrance, there's still lots of color. But if I go full vibrance and no saturation, there's no color. So saturation boosts colors that are already there, vibrance to boost areas that aren't very colorful. All right, the tone curve color channels. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, I typically say stay away from these because they're very touchy. In these panels, the small changes make big differences. Each of these 3 color dots here represents 3 color channels that make up your image. Remember that our tone curve lesson, this line here represents how Lightroom is interpreting the light and contrast values of your image. So they override the other changes that you make in your edit to skew the image towards the curved line. A straight line means interpret it as it is shot. A curved line means view this image through this curved distorted glass. This is the lens through which Lightroom sees your photos. So in the color channels, each one of them will skew the image towards the color indicated in the channel. As the line moves toward yellow, it adds yellow in line with the curve. You're saying, hey, add yellow to these bright tones, or add blue to the blue tones, or mess up my whole image by making it look absolutely awful. Easy to do here. So these 3 color channels work together to manage all of the colors in the image at the same time. If I make changes to only 1, or 2, or 3 in different directions, I can add different colored tones to the shadows, highlights, and midtones, whites and blacks. Because this tool gives us so much adjustment opportunity, like making it all blue, that means that any small change makes a big difference. We also use this cool tool right here to point and click to add the target color to a luminance range. I know, it sounds confusing. Well, click and pull up and down. That seems simpler. Depending on the channel you're in, depends on the target color that you're clicking and pulling up or down. Also, clipping the bottom or top of the whites and blacks in the color channel will add a tone to your whites and blacks. This can definitely give you a different type of look or tone to your image if you want to give it a particular feel. Like this one, or this one. If you understand what these tools can do, it will open up your ability to achieve a more specific look to your photos. It will also allow you to color match basically any style of photo editing that you want. Here are a few different selections of different tones that you can give to your pictures just by using these color curves. All right, the HSL tab. Goody goody, I love these ones. So HSL are kind of color channels. So HSL means hue, saturation, and luminance. And surprisingly, it's called that because those are the 3 different things that you can adjust here for each of the different colors. So you have the choice of up to 8 colors to choose from, and you can add or remove intensity of that color with saturation. You can change the color of that range using the hue, or you can bring the luminance values or brightness up or down with the luminance of that particular color channel. So really, it gives you complete control over each different color individually within the image. And as an added bonus, you can use this tool to point and click a desired color in the image depending on which option you've selected, hue, saturation, or luminance. So you'll be able to, again, point and click. I love pointing and clicking. So click and drag up and down to affect the range that you want within the image. Neato. Let's look at some cases where this is really helpful. If you have a wedding dress that has a tone to it, you can adjust that here, make it more towards white, because hey, wedding dresses are supposed to be white. Skin tones. Now, the orange channel is really the skin tone channel. Just about all shades of skin fall within this orange channel. So whether you want the skin tones to be lighter or darker, they're still in this orange range. So that allows you to adjust the hue, the color of the skin, and the brightness of the skin, and the saturation of the skin. If you have unwanted color in the shadows, oftentimes you get a blue cast in the shadows if you start bumping up the saturation of an image. And when you take that out, like this, your image automatically looks way better because that blue is often contrasting. It's competing with your eyes with the other colors in the image. So remember that whole color theory thing about competing colors? Well, we can remove that right here. But this ability to point and click and choose the spots in your image where you want to make adjustments gives you so much control over your photo that it makes me happy. Play around with this tab often and a lot. I think you'll like what you find. All right, the color grading tab. I've got a whole video covering the color grading tab. This is a super useful one for toning your image. But basically you have these 3 different color wheels here and they represent the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights of your image. And you can add a shade of color into the shadows, the midtones, or the highlights. So if you have a highlight that you want to make more yellow, you drag the slider here out from the center and towards the yellow, and then you can adjust it to see what color you want. Or you can use this eyedropper here, drag and pick one of the colors from the images for your shadows, midtones, or highlights. Or you can do complementary color grading. So you could add blue to the shadows, yellows to the highlights, and leave the midtones untouched. Or you can do more of a tricolor and add 3 opposite colors together to give the image a particular tone. These 3 color wheels here will allow you to add tones to each of the different ranges of your image. All right, camera calibration. Similar to the color curves and tone curve tab, camera calibration is a way for you to tell the program how to look at each of the different colors. If you're working with JPEG images, camera calibration is a much better spot to correct unwanted tones than the white balance sliders. These different values allow you to interpret what the program thinks is red and move those values towards orange or blue. Same with each of the other color values. So it allows you to change the red channel to actually be a different color, or blue or green. You might be a little overwhelmed at the options here, but let's take a look at a couple of image case studies and you can see how we can use these to our benefit. Here I have an image where the overall edit of the photo, the skin tones of this person have too much red in them. So let's go down to the red channel in the camera calibration. And remember, in the HSL tab, the orange channel corresponds with skin. So if I move the red channel towards orange, I'm making those red tones in his face more in line with the rest of the oranges already there. So basically I'm removing the redness of his face by telling Lightroom to change how it interprets red. Then there are camera profiles. These are the ones that people often purchase from another editor, load into their program, and use them if they think they look good. But what are they? Lightroom is limited to non-destructive adjustments, and its companion program, Photoshop, allows for more control over adding colors to color ranges, changes of brightness values of a target range, all very technical stuff. Profiles allows you to make the changes to an image within Photoshop, and then save the values of those changes, import them into Lightroom, and then Lightroom allows you to apply them to your images in bulk. And remember that Lightroom is this photo management tool. It gives you speed options over all of your images. So these can be really powerful if there's a particular look that you want to all of your images. You can create a profile within Photoshop and then apply it to all of your photos in Lightroom all at once and not ever have to bring them into Photoshop. So it's super cool once you learn how to use them and what they're meant for. So it's a very powerful color tool, but requires a long video all on its own. So we'll cover that one in another video, and I added in here because it is a color feature. And then there are also presets. Nothing fancy here. These are just saved values of all of the other things that we've already gone over in Lightroom, saved so that a quick touch of a button will apply those changes to your image. Now that you know what all the color features do within Lightroom, go play with them and make your images better.